sin entered the world through one man, all men have sinned. This, if all were innocent, and in the Black's Law dictionary of what the law uses versus the Webster's dictionary of what we use, no one is innocent.
Although I do have to say, I'm always skeptical until I look into these things, like who's pushing for this. The timing's always suspicious. Let me give you an example. You know,
we are here live on Rumble. This is a new host panel kind of platform I want to start doing with people here that I find, across the interwebs and just across my travels across the globe here, interesting intellectual minds. I'm Christopher Ash with the My First Amendment Right podcast. You can catch us streaming live right now on Rumble. If you guys want to share that around, if you're sitting in with us now. And what I'm going to do to start this off is go around the panel of Anthony, Nate, and Sam. And I'm going to let these gentlemen introduce themselves. We're going to try to keep this to 90 minutes or under. So we're going to keep everything kind of short and sweet and see what we can get into today. And I'll let Anthony start it off.
So my name is Anthony Graffeo, independent researcher, been going down rabbit holes since the middle school, and I've compiled enough evidence to lead to the conclusion that, gentlemen, it's so that's why we're here today, to talk about the biggest problem that we have in our country and probably worldwide is supremacy of control.
All right. And Sam, I'll have you go and follow that up.
yeah, it's just like Anthony said. Supremacy is the greatest problem that we face right now. It stands in the way of literally every solution that can fix our society. There's some aspect of supremacy standing in the way. I was not always aware of this. I came to it later in life. I grew up a normal, white conservative American, all-American upbringing, little town, logging town, coal mining town, and was a traditional conservative for many years. And I have more recently in my adult years come to embrace American nationalism as a way forward to, acknowledge what America is. It's a white Christian country. And if we don't preserve that, then it will cease to be America. And people, supremacy has been at the forefront of this transformation, to quote Barbara Lerner Specter. We have to do something about it. And we got to stop them from killing babies in Gaza and killing Americans in America and killing people around the world, really.
Amen.
All right.
And Nate, go ahead and take it away.
Hey, everybody. This is Nate Hall, a.k.a. Nate the Turk. I'll tell you, I come from a long military family. Most of the males, all males in my family are all military, all worked in some sort of special operations program or something like that. And I've spent a lot of time around the world tracking evidence in uniform, out of uniform, in war zones, out of war zones, consulting government officials, consulting 2 presidential candidates in different countries. And I follow the evidence. Wherever the evidence brings me, that's where I'm at. I seek for the truth. I seek for the lowest common denominator. And I think in this show today, with a cross section of people, we're going to get to that lowest common denominator. And we're going to have a good conversation about what we think we know, what we do know, and where this country's going and how we potentially fix it. So no further ado, guys, let's rock and roll.
All right. Sounds good to me.
Let's do it.
All right. One of the things here I was going to start us off with is, I don't know if you guys kind of noticed, but Alex Jones for a little bit here, since Trump got elected, like the rest of them had kind of the boot in his mouth, not too, tiptoeing around Israel. But then the past 24 hours, praising Trump for restoring gun owner rights for non-violent felonies, essentially. Did you guys see that one?
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I saw that.
What do
That's
you
new.
See if
I think Trump's an anomaly. You know what I mean? I mean, like he definitely is a confusing character when it comes to all this stuff. You know, his past is obviously riddled with bullshit. Has he cut ties? I don't think so at this moment. He hasn't really showed us that. There's a lot of fluffer pieces that are in the media right now that leads me to believe that there might be a split, there might be a divide with America and Israel. But I mean, even if Trump was the one that decides to step away from them, all of our other congressmen and women and Senate and everything is controlled by them. APAC is the biggest lobbyist group in our country. But with that being said, with that situation, with making it with this Second Amendment powerhouse, that's the Second Amendment powerhouse in my opinion. The Jews don't want that. You know what I mean? The only way that they were able to have the Bolshevik Revolution is because they disarmed everybody first.
This is what I was referring to here. You guys can see this?
Yeah.
Nate, have you seen this?
No, it's the first time I've seen it.
That's very interesting because the 1968 Gun Control Act, one of the main sponsors of that bill was Emanuel Seller, the Jew who also ran through the Immigration Act of 1965 and helped usher through the Fair Housing Act of 1968 and the Civil Rights Act and Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Voting Rights Act of 65. Really at the forefront of pushing through the civil rights coup that rewrote American DNA and our foundations. And then he followed it up with this Gun Control Act in 1968 to start, taking away our guns. You know, and what's interesting about that is it's like, okay, we're going to flood your country with a bunch of third worlders and crime, and so that you don't get mad at us, we're going to take away your guns. we're going to start taking away your guns right now, so that when all this hits the fan. So that was the plot here, So this is good to see. I'm glad to see them reversing some of these past tyrannies.
Yeah, this is like I'm saying, like this is the emphasis of like the cure of Bolshevism and communism is that they don't want a populace to have weapons because it's a lot easier to come and get us when we're disarmed. So that's what I'm saying. It's interesting the way like Trump plays this game. I don't want to be a 5D chess guy, but sometimes it is very confusing in the fog of war of what is going on.
Although I do have to say, I'm always skeptical until I look into these things, like who's pushing for this. The timing's always suspicious. Let me give you an example. The Supreme Court finally, miraculously overturned Roe v. Wade, right? And we're all, wow, this is exactly what we voted for. This is what we wanted. And I'm against abortion, by the way. I'm pro-life.
Same.
But I can't help but notice that the timing of overturning of Roe v. Wade was exactly on the eve of the planned Biden, immigration invasion, where we got flooded with like 12 million more illegals. And now all of a sudden abortion is illegal. And these people, whatever they're doing. So like the timing is, I was a little suspicious for me. Is there another agenda afoot? And so I'm like, I asked myself, is there an agenda afoot here that like does benefit some Americans, but it's also meant to hurt other Americans in some way? Like, are there illegals that are nonviolent felons that are now going to be able to get guns?
That's true. That's true.
What's
That's
going
a
on?
good point.
I always question these things. I guess maybe I'm too suspicious, too conspiracy minded.
No, you're right in line, Sam.
No, that's on the money, man.
I want to get Nate in here on this. He's been waiting patiently.
No, I think Sam, you're right on point. Especially you see that already down here in South Florida. It's already, South Florida is, it's almost like in order to enter Broward County and Dade County, you need a passport. You need a second passport to enter Hialeah. I spent years in South America, and I'll tell you, all during COVID, where I spent down in South America, they were lining people up in a coordinated effort for all these refugees. They were lining them up, paying for them to cross the border. They were first sending TikTok videos recruiting. They were then telling them to go to Acapulco. When they were paid to go to Acapulco to a tourist a camp that was there, then they were shuttled. Told that we'll take a 50% deposit, coordinate with the INS and the immigration officials across the border. Once you coordinate with the immigration officials across the border and you're in, then you can pay us the remaining. That's never been done before.
Yeah.
Yeah, we saw how organized it was. We saw the super highway that Highest had
Act-
set up all the way
Uh,
from South America all the way up into Texas, and we know
oh
that
my God, it was crazy.
Alejandro Mayorkas was the head of Homeland Security, right? And he used to be a
Well,
former board member of Highest, the Hebrew
He's a,
Immigrant
by
Society,
the way.
and yeah, and he went down. Yeah, total went down to South America and visited down there. He saw the highest facilities down in South America, right? And everybody, you can get online, get on Twitter, and look up the highest maps and the super highway they had constructed to move these people, United States, millions of people, and you know the gates of Toledo. Who opened the gates of Toledo?
absolutely.
Same
I was
people.
down there on the tip of it.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. So the next thing we have going on here. So how like the White House, they did away with the traditional press, brought in a whole bunch of YouTubers and
Brought in
influencers.
some more press.
Right.
Tim
So
Pool.
in the past 24 hours though, this dude, on live TV started asking questions, right in the face of everybody about, the Clinton body count.
Yeah.
So that's making its rounds right now.
Trump posted a video first. That's why Trump posted a video on his truth about the Clinton body count. And basically, like every single person that was, I mean, not every single person, but the main people that everybody knows, how they were taken out by the Clintons and whatnot. But the important thing that Zero Hedge said was that he led into the question and said, but that leads me to believe that they're hiding that Epstein was an intelligence agent specifically for Israel. And what's the girl's name? I forget her name, the press secretary, whatever. Her face like instantly turned.
And
And she,
Bondi?
no.
Is it Carolyn Levitt?
Carolyn
Levitt.
Levitt. And she's like, "Oh, I would have you reference the DOJ and da da da. They're working fervently to put this out." And it's like, no, they're not. Pam Bondi's owned completely.
She covered up the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking scandal and probably a greater trafficking ring in Florida for the years she was the attorney general of the state of Florida down there. And perhaps Nate, that's down in your neck of the woods. You know more about that, but
Yeah, as far as the specific issues, I don't know about the specific issues, but I know some of the street issues that are there. Yeah, there was a huge cover up. I mean, there's no question on that. I mean, when you reach the level of the depth that Epstein did, he's not the only one. We also have Harvey Weinstein. We have this issue going on with P. Diddy. We have the issue. They're all interconnected. No one's talking about it. What they're doing is they're isolating each individual thing. They're breaking it down, entertaining the public, confusing you, and not telling you where the 35,000-foot view is.
Yeah. I mean, they've been doing this a long time. If you
Yeah.
go back and you look at Louis Rosenthal, he worked for Sam Brothman. They were having these blackmail sex trafficking parties for a long time. They were at the Plaza Hotel in the Blue Suite, Roy Khan, and they would actually have little boys come in, and that's where they got the blackmail on J. Edgar Hoover, where they had him in drag and all this stuff. So this is something that the have been doing for a long time. They collectively use their power and influence to catch people in blackmail and sting operations, whether it's with honeypots or children, to get power in a nation. They've been doing this for a very long time. So Epstein, the thing is that people don't realize is like Epstein is like not a new character. He's just a piece of a puzzle that's been happening for such a long time. And I think it was such a shocking thing to people. And I made a video about this, and it's like a lot of people, especially Trump MAGA people, they're looking for one boogeyman, right? Oh, it's Obama. Oh, it's Hillary Clinton. Oh, it's Epstein. No, there's an apparatus that's controlling all of them. Who's the one that's holding the video camera when, if Hillary Clinton did this videotape with her and Huma Abedin where they're cutting the little girl's face off, frazzle drip? I don't know if you guys have heard about that, whatever, but who was the one videotaping it? Who were they getting life insurance policies on? Who are the ones that have been, who gave Epstein, I mean, Leslie Wexner, right, is a way bigger player than Jeffrey Epstein was. Jeffrey Epstein is the fall guy in this situation. But this all leads back to the Israeli Mossad, right?
absolutely. Some aspect of you had the mega group, this worldwide cabal of billionaires that were backing Jeffrey Epstein. They were involved in this, obviously. I mean, there's nothing but Israeli and fingerprints all over this, and anybody who's not telling you that is either controlled or retarded or both. Okay, there's just there's just no question about that anymore. We know, Anthony talked about how they blackmailed J. Edgar Hoover, but we also now know that Reuven Shalom, the founder of the Mossad, was also blackmailing the Dulles brothers
Yes.
and the Prescott Bush, the grandfather of George W. Bush. he was blackmailing them too. So since the 1940s. So the CIA, when the CIA is founded in the late 1940s, like the Dulles was already being blackmailed already from day one. So
Yeah.
and you can go back and read Pawns in the Game by William Guy Carr in 1954. He was a Canadian intelligence agent. And he writes about this thing called the Glass Club back in World War One. And it was this private club that ran that plied army officers and politicians and other important societal influencers with alcohol and booze and food and women and strip shows in this private exclusive club. And what goes on in the club stays in the club. But everybody in the club was spies, and they would relay their information and the things they heard back to their masters, who kept all the information in a black book. It literally talks about the black book,
Epstein.
the little the Epstein black book of basically this blackmail that they got from British army officers during World War One. That they would relay this information to the enemy and to worldwide. I mean, so they've been, who knows how long they've been running these scams. Yeah, I'll give you another example. Everybody saw Sound of Freedom a couple summers ago. You know, the Tim Ballard movie about the child sex trafficking in South America. Yep. What they don't tell you is that it was Israelis that were running. It was Israelis that were running that child sex trafficking ring down there. Okay, and you can get online and look that up too. And,
so Sam, I wanted to pipe in on that one. So that movie Sounds of Freedom was right on point. I've lived and worked in that entire region for the last 10 years. I run a nonprofit that fights against human trafficking up in the jungle and violence against women and children. I still do that to this day. I've rescued many women. And let me tell you, I hear the boogeyman stories all through the Amazon jungle, all the way up into Iquitos and all in that back area. And when you get to the lowest common denominator, it is the Zionist running that. So let me be very clear. Zionists are not Jews, and Jews are not Zionists.
I'm sorry, I don't
Zionism.
subscribe to that bullshit, Nate. I'm sorry.
It's quite all right.
Right now, okay.
It's quite all right.
Yeah.
I spent years working in the theater, and I don't need any third-party endorsement. I've lived it.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. I used to be the former director of security for members of the royal family of Jordan. I've been on that border. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what I'm telling you is what I've experienced hands-on. Not reading any books. That's the reason why I'm very quiet in what I'm saying, because I live it. I have family members that live it to this day.
We're not saying that you don't live it, but the point we're trying to make is that it's not just Zionist. It's left to forward.
There's a combination that they play back and forth. Okay, you're right. I'm not saying that one or the other, because I agree. No one should hide behind any religion for any advancement. You know, I mean, Sun Tzu, you said it 2,000 years ago, is the art of strategic maneuvering for advantageous position. And that's what they've mastered.
Yes.
They did create an agreement starting back when Theodore Herzl created Zionism in 1895 and then later brought it up and fostered it. And then they merged it because they were kicked out of every country. So that merging became the Nazi Party, which Nazi is actually the Northern Alliance of Germany and the Zionist movement. That was the Nazi agreement.
No, Nazis are not Jews. That's ridiculous. This is nonsense. I'm sorry, Nate. That's just nonsense. Nazis,
that's the Havar
German National Socialist Party. We're not Jews. Okay, they were Germans, right? And yeah, they had the Havar Agreement. But why did they have the Havar Agreement? Because World Jewry launched a worldwide boycott of German goods. Judea declares war on Germany.
Yes.
And so the National Socialists went to another wing of Jews, Zionist Jews, and had them appeal to their brethren to, we will start sending Jews and their wealth to Palestine if you'll call off this boycott. and it only partially helped. The boycott actually lasted into like 1938 or 1939. I think it launched at the beginning of 1934 and went to 1938 or 39.
Yeah.
But it was a temporary alliance to basically allow, to call off this war against Germany.
Didn't
And
Hitler
dude,
want to send him to
yeah.
Madagascar first?
There were other plans, there
Yeah.
was a Madagascar plan, there were various other plans, but this is just nonsense.
Can I just make a point real fast? Can I make a point for Nate real fast? So here's the thing, right? And I think that like this conversation is such a buzz conversation right now that people forget the most important about the whole entire conversation is the biblical aspect of who the Jews are, okay? You're talking about the people that sacrifice their babies on hot altars to Moloch, okay?
Right.
The same Moloch that Hillary Clinton had in her emails about she's going to go sacrifice a chicken to, okay? This is something that is in the religion, okay? It's not an anti-Semitic trope or that the blood libel thing was fake or not, okay? Saint Trent, you know what I'm talking about, right? Saint Trent?
Saint Simon and Trent, yeah.
Yes, of course. These are real situations that the Jews have been doing way before Theodore Herzl, okay?
Yeah.
Way before Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
We're
Zionists
talking about
write the Talmud.
thousands of years ago. Thousands of years ago.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
You're not disagreeing?
I'm not disagreeing with you on that.
Okay.
Because the Talmuds have been around. That is their endorsement. That's their law.
Okay. Real quick here, gentlemen. Just 1 second. So
we're having a vigorous debate.
No, absolutely. Just for our viewers, you guys are doing great. You guys, I want to let you go, but just for our viewers, and because look, if you have a thought, somebody else has the same thought. So I'm not speaking for any of y'all, but myself and others that feel like me. We're not disputing the histories of these groups of people. I think what we're saying in modern day society is that every single person born on this earth, this is what we believe fundamentally. It doesn't matter if I want you to go off your own stereotypes or whatever you want with your own blah blah. But the moment you are born innocent. When you are coming to this world as a baby, you are innocent as fuck. So I will not condemn people all outright, saying that there's not a chance for them to be born into the group later on in life, be like, this is not the group I want to be a part of. So I'm not going to say like, oh, because you were born a Jew or you were born into brainwashed Zionist indoctrination thinking that just like a drug addict, just like somebody who drunk drive, killed somebody who made a mistake in life, who came to the realization and came to the other side, I will never not extend my hand for somebody who is genuine.
I respect that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's Messianic Jews. There's Messianic Jews that came to Christ.
I guess look, and I get
it. Actually, I don't accept that.
You don't accept it?
And I'll tell you the reason why. Because the scriptures, I'll tell you the reason why. Because the scripture says, for sin entered the world through one man, all men have sinned. This, if all were innocent, and in the Black's Law dictionary of what the law uses versus the Webster's dictionary of what we use, no one is innocent.
Okay, sure.
They are not guilty or guilty, but no one is innocent.
But we have,
and this is
that's the theological.
We're all born with the same slate, though, right?
We have Jesus Christ to repent to.
We're all still born with the same slate, then, though, right?
Yeah,
we're all born exactly. We're all born sinners, destined for hell.
We're all born into sin, and it's on us to find our way.
Well, we begin to sin, but you were correct, Christopher. When you're first born into the world, you're born as a baby. You are innocent. Okay, you are. You haven't committed any sins. You haven't done anything wrong. You're not accountable before God. Okay,
right?
For any type.
Not until 12 years old.
And that's a theological difference. In my religion, we believe accountability starts at the age of 8. Other people believe different things, but. But the point is a freshly born baby hasn't done anything wrong, hasn't committed any sin, doesn't have any accountability or self-awareness. Like, I think it's a gross mischaracterization to call that infant, guilty of something. They're not guilty of anything. But we look at the Jews in the Talmud, and what are they talking about today? Every person in Gaza is guilty. That's what Israel, many of the leaders of Israel are saying. Many of these saying, and they're saying that even the babies, I posted it, I actually posted
Michelle,
it today.
Whatever said it,
we have to kill all of the children It's the only way. That's what they're saying, because they're guilty too, and that's a Jewish way of thinking. That's supremacy that comes from the Talmud, where
And I look at that. That's the mentality of a serial killer.
well, absolutely, but it comes out of the Talmud. This is
they
born
are.
from the Talmud and Jewish
I
supremacy.
mean,
Just look at the evidence. Nothing else. I don't worry about the religion, but that's the mentality of a serial killer.
No question. They do that a long time. But here, let me interject here for 1 second.
Absolutely, take it away.
I think the most important thing for any that's listening to this, if you're sneaking into the conversation or whatever, I think the most important thing and the number one thing that you could do is repent and seek Jesus Christ, because he's the only thing that is going to absolve you of the sins that you live in this world. And it's not that you guys are even connected to the filth that the top of the snake is connected to, because there's a lot of just regular Jewish people that just live in America that on Hanukkah they put up a menorah, they don't actually go to shul, they're not actually practicing Shabbat, right? They're not actually most of them don't even know what the Talmud is. Those Jews, now the problem with them, I'm gonna tell you what it is they have such a pride of being Jewish, though, because they were told they were born Jewish, that they want to tie themselves to the atrocities of the Israeli government and the Talmud and all these other things. I was born a Roman Catholic. When I found out about the Pope and I found out about what the Vatican does, guess what? I ain't a Roman Catholic no more. Okay? I could be a Christian and I could say that this is filth, this is a problem, and I don't agree with it. And I feel like the Jews could do the same. What's up?
I think that's what Israel's going through right now. It's, you remember our 9/11 and seeing that as kids, and that was like the first time you start questioning everything because of what you're being told and what you're seeing with your own two eyes. You're like, no, like that buildings just don't fall because other buildings fall. Like, I'm not fucking retarded. So like Israel, I think Israel living right next to this genocide, there is an awakening among them, because because I've been to Tel Aviv. I have friends from my past industry that own some of these studios, and I've sat down with them and had heart-to-heart conversations about them and their families and their children. And at the start of all this, and I was still firmly against, it's David versus Goliath. It's not even a war. It's like the bully picking on a little scrawny kid, and the scrawny kid gets a free punch in every once in a while, and then the bully screams, "Ah! You made me bleed my own blood."
Yeah, but I want to turn it back to where we got into this little bit debate. Nate was talking about how he's lived it, how he's seen it. It's the Zionists, but the Lev Tahar just got arrested in Guatemala. They're not Zionists. They're straight up Jews. They're Talmudic. They're Talmudic, and they just got caught sex trafficking American kids, not Guatemalan kids.
It's unfortunate. You see this all through Central South America. It's horrible.
It's the Jews, man. It's not the Zionists.
Yeah, but they're anti-Zionist sect. So this thing about the Zionists aren't Jews. Of course they are. Like, they were in concentration camps in Europe in the 1940s. And they were called, everybody calls them Jews, they were Jews, right? And then they go to Israel, and now all of a sudden they're not Jews anymore, they're Zionists. Okay, well, last year we were calling them Jews.
I think the whole
Zionists, no, they're Jews. Okay?
Israeli aren't Zionists and Jews aren't Israelis is not so much not associating them. It's just pointing out the fact of their hypocrisy, because they're not actually Semites. I think that's water
muddying. That's another water muddying conversation. Are they?
Yeah, because
are they not Semites?
None of them are Semites. None of them are Semites. Palestinians are Semites.
I don't care.
Arabs are Semites. None of them are Semites.
I'm gonna go by what it says in the Bible. What they are: a synagogue of Satan. Okay, that's what I'm going by. They're
a group of people that have seen their identity for thousands of years. I don't care if they're Semites, not Semites. I don't care if they're blue, green, red. I don't care. They're Jews, and they're a group of people. They're their own tribe. It's passed on in the blood. You have. Your mother or father has to be Jewish. Some sects, they subscribe to matriarchal lineage. Others accept patriarchal lineage. Okay, it's passed on in the blood, and it has been for thousands of years. They're their own group.
But that's not accurate. That's the reason why there's no DNA tests in Israel. There is no empirical medical evidence to ever establish a race of Jews. None. Not on the face of the earth.
Silly. Like for thousands of years, their Jewishness is passed on, like
No.
literally genetically.
Chaldean and Canaanite.
I don't care what their DNA says. They're a group.
Oh, I do, because that's the only way we get accurate. The rest is supposition.
Listen,
accuracy is what's important.
There's a group of people.
The rest is supposition.
Jews. There's a group of people called Jews, and they've called themselves Jews, and they're identified as Jews for thousands of years. Okay, and whatever their DNA.
I understand. There's people with Stockholm syndrome too.
That they're a cohesive tribe of people that's been.
Well, there's 12 difference of them that are totally different.
Okay, but here's the thing, and here's the main thing. The main thing is that they're tribal. Okay,
that's
and
right.
Exactly.
They keep it very close to very close to the chest. Everything they do is very calculated, and everything to do is to give them power and to create more supremacy, to take away from the Gentiles. Like you said, they keep their families very close. They want to. They do all these things that they want the goy to do the opposite of. Every single thing from feminism to communism is a Jewish religion, basically.
But let's look at where Jew came from, the origin of the word, which is very important, because there were 12 tribes of Jacob that got converted to the name of Israel. Then it was the tribe of Judah that actually created the name Judaism. So what about the other 11 tribes of the Israelites? And where DNA is important is when we go back to empirical medical evidence. When you look at that, it goes back to Canaanites. Now, to further establish what you were saying, Anthony, understanding the medical DNA going back to Canaanite and Chaldean establishes the synagogue of Satan.
Yeah, it goes even further back than that. It goes back to
so it's medical DNA, which is important.
All of these issues, and there's disagreement on all of what you just said, by the way, amongst various people. You can find 12 different positions on everything you just claimed, Nate. But here's the point.
I will look at the science and the evidence.
It doesn't change that there's a group of people right now in 2025 called Jews that are censoring our speech on the internet, that are occupying our government, that are keeping
not disagreeing with you,
flooding us, that are bombing kids in Gaza, that are operating through worldwide networks like Chabad, Lubavitch, and Likud, and these other and Halal, and these other international organizations.
But Orthodox Jews are being bombed as well.
What's that?
So let's look at the reality. Even the Zionists so let's take it all of the group, which is the Ashkenazi, which runs every single one of the administration of Israel right now, has no lineage to Israel whatsoever. As a matter of fact,
not only where their lineage comes from, they're a problem.
But if you want to be accurate, you need to care. Because just throwing shit up against the wall doesn't help anybody. That's where we need to dissect and get into it. That's all.
Censor the internet? Yes. Hold on. I'm not throwing shit up against the wall. I'm making very specific allegations. There's a tribe of people called Jews. They go back centuries, right? And they're currently censoring our speech online. They're currently occupying our government. They push pornography, mass pornography on our society. They flood our borders with the third world invasion. All right, they're bombing kids in Gaza. They're creating instability all throughout the Middle East. Their colonies are all over the world. Okay, this is a very specific group of people. Now, you can call them Semites, you can call them not Semites, you can say they came from here, you can say they came from there, you can call them this, you can call them that. It doesn't change the fact that there's this tribe of people in our day right now doing these things, and they have
not just one tribe.
And every theory you have about their past origins or where they came from, I subscribe to a lot of that. But I can find you 15 other.
I don't. I worked in it. It's what's called asymmetrical warfare. But it is ordained. It is tradecraft in the agencies. Been there, done that.
I mean, no disrespect.
Hold on. Let me finish. It doesn't matter if they came from the tribe of Judah or the Chaldeans or Canaanites. It doesn't matter where they came from to the point of what are they doing now. Now, I agree. Those are all important discussions. They're interesting discussions. They're fascinating discussions. But does it change? But if they're a Babylonian or a Chaldean or a Judahite, does it change the fact that they're censoring our speech and bombing babies and flooding our borders right now? Does it change any of that? It doesn't change any of that.
Yeah,
so those are interesting academic debates, but it doesn't change the fact that they're a problem right now.
Yeah. So it's like everybody throws around the term deep state. You have to identify who the deep state is.
I just did.
You don't throw the bathwater with the baby. You have to identify. It's the same thing as we have in the militaries, target recognition and enemy identification. You got to know who they are specifically, unequivocally, beyond a reasonable doubt, not by the preponderance of evidence. The arguments that you're making are from a legal standard by the preponderance of evidence, not from a criminal standard of beyond a reasonable doubt. When you go to engagement with lethal force, you need to understand beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, I don't disagree with AIPAC flooding our country with agents all around, flooding the money, because I even did a petition because 89% of all U.S. congressmen and senators have a dual citizenship to Israel. Now, in my evidence fact-finding, that should be classified as treason. You should not be able to vote on anything and fund another country when you have a dual relationship. Look, you can't serve two masters. If you're America, you're America only.
Yeah, for sure.
This has been the My First Amendment Right podcast. Thank you, and God bless all.
Thanks to everybody there.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you all. God bless everybody.